r/AskReddit. People who don't get stressed during a presentation, school, or work, what's your secret? Public speaking doesn't bother me if I know the material really well. Know what you're talking about and you'll be fine. Don't be afraid to not know something too. If someone asks you something you don't know, just say so. Experience. I used to get nervous and now I don't. Not sure when or why that happened. Be dead inside. It can help if you recognize those physical symptoms, tight chest, sweaty hands, or whatever it is for you, not as something is wrong, but rather your body preparing you for something important. Your stress response isn't as scary if you know it's there to help you be a badass if something scary shows up. I thought I was scared of public speaking until I had to do this one assignment. As a generally quiet guy, I thought getting up in front of people and saying stuff was the last thing I'd want to do. However, a switch flipped in my brain at the perfect moment. Just before beginning, I realized that everyone had to shut up and listen to me and let me explain all those many thoughts that rattle around in my brain. Think of it as an opportunity to get something off your chest. You don't owe the audience anything. They're getting something from your cathartic rant. That's my secret, I'm always stressed. I remind myself that everyone in the audience is rooting for me. Nobody wants me to bomb, they're all on my side. The worst that'll happen is that people won't be paying attention, and people who aren't paying attention are easy to talk at without getting stressed out. Couple of things that worked really well for me: dressing up. At least personally, when I throw on a suit and tie, I feel unstoppable. Knowing that I at least look nice can take the edge off the fear of not doing well. If you can, try to memorize, or at least be very familiar, with the first paragraph or so of your speech. Maybe you don't have time to prep for the whole thing, but if you can start off strong, you'll feel a lot more comfortable for the rest of the speech, plus you'll have made a good impression on the crowd already. Note cards help. Take some time and watch some TED Talks on YouTube. Find somebody whose presenting style you vibe with, then try to model your style after them. Don't be afraid to admit if you don't know something. If your presentation has AQ/A and you get asked a difficult question, it's way better to just say I'll look into this and get back to you with an answer than to just flounder and try to BS something. Hope this helps. Double shot of whiskey. Really helped me during show and tell in 4th grade. I just say, fuck it. What happens happens. It helps that I have enough self-confidence to either do well in something or make up for it later. The make up for it later part is key because you can be a bumbling idiot and still ask, what do I need to do to make up for this? And then do it as they told you to do it. Edit, I missed the key word, presentations, but my point stands because as someone else said, people are only worried about messing up their own presentation. They won't and can't remember yours within a couple weeks. Just inflate your ego. Think the listeners are stupid and won't notice any mistakes. Sounds rude, but works. Stop giving a fuck. Honestly, just remembering that most likely, no one is paying attention anyway, especially if it's school. Beta blockers. Honestly, it is just experience. Speaking in front of people used to scare the hell out of me. Well, I became a tutor for my college and was paid $6/HR to tutor other students one-on-one. Well, the tutoring center wanted to start kind of a group tutoring concept for core classes. I was asked to tutor chemistry and I would have multiple kids in there. For this, I would be paid $9/HR. Hell yeah. Well, the room I was assigned was a large lecture hall. Should've been a red flag, but I was going to make $9/HR. I get there with no idea WTF to expect. I had no plan. I'm expecting a few kids, maybe a dozen. Kids start showing up, and the room fills, and fills, and fills. I don't recall how many students showed up for my tutoring session, but it was well over 100, $9/HR. Didn't seem so good anymore. Well, I had no idea what to do, so I asked for questions and eventually it began to develop its own flow. I come to find out later that the chemistry professors offered kids something like 5 extra points on their final grade if they showed up to my tutoring sessions. Figured that out when kids started asking me how I was taking attendance so they could prove they were there. Anyway, after that I realized some things about public speaking. 1. If I am being asked to speak, chances are I am thought of as an expert. People are there to listen to my thoughts. 2. It is okay to say the words I don't know. 3. Preparation is important. If I am able, I write a speech or presentation word for word as well as make an outline of taking subjects. I practice reading the speech word for word and review my outline. After that, I can either use the speech I wrote or I have researched the topic enough I can basically freestyle my speech using the outline to keep me on point. 4. You often will have that one asshole who likes to make others look bad by asking obscure or difficult questions. To deal with them, I most often use the phrase "that is an excellent question. I have to look into that and get back to you. Please give me your email at the end." Usually the nod will stroke their ego enough to get them to shut up. If they keep asking dumb shit, their co-workers will usually glare at them and set them straight. 5. Stories are usually helpful. Why'd I share my story above? Because it helps you relate to what I faced. It kind of makes a person say holy shit, that was probably frightening as hell, but at the same time give a hint that one can make it through it. 6. With experience, you begin to learn to read people. You can tell if people are hanging on your every word or you can tell if people are bored as hell. When people's eyes are glazing over and jumping out the window begins to sound like a better option than listening to me, I'll give a Cliff's Notes, "Are they still a thing?" version of what I was going to say and get the fuck off stage. I did bad stand-up comedy at writing camp when I was 15. Everything pales in comparison to that. I've had a stutter since 3rd grade. At this point in my life, age 26, public speaking is really no big deal for me. I think it's a combination of some pretty intense speech therapy, involving starting up conversations with strangers in the Boston Common, and already living out some of the worst-case scenarios of speaking in front of a crowd. I just pick one person in the audience to speak to. I pretend that person asked me to explain whatever I'm talking about. It usually helps if the person is already a friend or someone I find attractive. I find it easy to talk confidently about a particular subject to a friend. If I choose an attractive audience member, I speak like I am on a date. I enunciate more clearly, not afraid to sidetrack to smaller subjects that help explain the broader subject in turn, and I have motivation to impress them. All of this being said, this does not mean I only make eye contact with the one person. Preparation. It sounds like a cliché answer, but it's so true. If I'm giving a presentation, I run through it at least once daily for the entire week leading up to it. Another is using a template. I always use a cover slide followed by an agenda slide. On the cover slide, I always introduce myself, the topic, and why it is important. 1 or 2 sentences for each. Then on the agenda slide, I just say in this presentation we will cover ________, and go down the bullets on the agenda. This allows you to prepare easily since you know exactly what you'll be saying, and calm your nerves in the beginning since it's very simple points with little room for error. Same at the end. To avoid crickets on a cue and a slide, I always have 1 or 2 questions in mind. If I get no questions, I'll say something like one question I often get about this topic. Or however introducing the question makes sense. Then, after that question, I ask again if anyone has anything, and if not, it's okay to move on at that point. I have a few other tips. I got very comfortable presenting after doing a public speaking class in graduate school, and actually taking the teachings of it seriously. I'll add more tips if people are interested. I always loved speaking in front of people. Got a rush out of being the center of attention my whole life, so I always stepped up to be the designated speaker in all group projects. People loved that I would always volunteer for that part, so they always wanted me in their group. It helps me thinking that other people, including the audience in front of me, isn't perfect. So why should they expect me to be so? I am doing my job to my best extent and think myself deal with it. But things in perspective. What will happen if you fail or don't do insanely good? Nothing. Your life is not in danger. There will be food on your table. You might waste same time, but if you are reasonable prepared, the consequences are small and you can only disappointed yourself. Go first. You set the bar for everyone else, then get to sit and relax. I get so stressed before the presentation that the actual presentation comes as a relief. I don't care enough about what other people think. Experience, I've given enough presentations that went well to know I can do it, and I've given enough presentations that went badly to know it's not a disaster. Okay, as someone who really enjoys public speaking, I can share some of the skills I use. Preparation, get through your presentation at least 3 times. Try to stop the time and see where it leads you. Too fast? Just ask the audience for questions throughout the presentation whenever you feel that you are too fast. Too slow? Just drop some of the minor points on a few slides and you are golden. This obviously only works if you know your presentation by heart. Prepare a welcome and thank you slide for the time before you start and after you finished. Before you start the actual presentation, make sure the technical aspects are working as planned and make yourself familiar with the stage. How does the remote work? Is my presentation working? Where do I stand, etc. pp. When it comes to giving the presentation, you don't want to struggle with the damn light switch. Your presentation should consist of bullet points. The actual information should come from you, the presenter. You can include the most important points, but let them appear after you said what you have to say. It keeps the audience interested and they won't start reading ahead. Make notes for yourself with the most important informations for every slide. If you have confidence in your presentation and understand the topic you are speaking about, you got the most important things covered. Bonus points, if possible, try to choose subjects that interest you. If you can speak about something that you are passionate about, you will be worth listening to. If your presentation is ready to go, let someone else look over it. If possible, hold your presentation in front of a friend for feedback. If possible, choose someone who is not familiar with the material. Outsiders are more likely to find mistakes because they aren't invested in the topic and are generally speaking more likely to find mistakes that you didn't catch. The most important part is, of course, practice. Try to hold as many presentations as possible. The first couple of times might suck, but you will get better. Practice makes perfect, and that's especially true for anything you do in front of an audience. Good luck, you will crush it with the proper preparation. Forgot one very important thing. Do not, I repeat, do not try to give it like a speech where you have to stay on script. Improvised speech is way more interesting to listen to than someone reading a script. Additionally, it increases your stress level unnecessary. 2 things, preparation and practice. I always have notes prepared about what I'm going to say, and I always practice a full run-through before presentations. I understand that despite having notes/having rehearsed presentations, people still get nervous. The best remedy for this is to present to real audiences a bunch of times. For example, in my case, I do MUN Club and have been to a bunch of conferences, and in MUN you have to give impromptu speeches to rooms of \100 people, give or take depending on your committee. Over time, I've gotten used to being in front of an audience, and that's been a huge help for presentation anxiety, and over about 2 years of being in said club, my speeches have become much more fluid and natural. To get more comfortable in front of an audience, present to people a number of times, your family, friends, especially important that you practice presenting to people your age, etc. I just try to remind myself that everyone else in the room would be just as nervous as I am. I think everyone gets a bit stressed. At least anticipatory. I don't worry about it a lot, because I don't mind being the center of attention. But, confidence is key here. It might help to repeat mantras to yourself in the days/hours leading up. Something along the lines of "I know this. I can do this. I am the expert here." And the biggest thing to remember is, no one wants you to fail. No one wants you to go up there or is anticipating you're going to be terrible. We all put so much stock into what other people think of us, when the truth is, we are all pretty self-absorbed, so people don't really think or care about what we're doing as much as we think they do. Like, truly, when you see someone giving a speech, are you really judging them? If they falter, don't you either not notice, or cross your fingers hoping they figure it out because you know what they're going through? And at the end of the day, do you give it any more thought? I know I don't. And that's the big takeaway. Being nervous to the point of outright stress doesn't even make sense, because no one cares. So it's better to repeat mantras and have confidence, because you will get through it. I was in speech and debate in high school, a communications major in college, tons of presentations. And I remember exactly 0 of anyone else's presentations. I barely remember mine. It's all very inconsequential, so just get through it. Prepare your best, breathe deep, and have confidence that you can do it and no one really cares. Get thrown on the stage at age 5, do years of theater and music performance. Honestly, practice. I worked as a program facilitator at a summer camp for 4 years, and in a job like that, you have to present all the time. After a week or 2 of presenting info to large crowds 5 to 10 times a day, you start to find your voice and become a lot less afraid to use it. I'm sure it's a very similar experience for teachers/lecturers/speakers, etc. I used to get super nervous before any sort of public speaking event. Shaky hands, sweating, nausea, the whole 9 yards. Eventually I landed a job as a corporate trainer. I was desperate for a job and dollars, so I just had to get up in a room of 30 plus people every day and present the training material and answer questions. Honestly, I just pretended I didn't care and faked it till I made it. Now, it actually doesn't bother me to speak in front of a group. If this is a challenge that you are facing, maybe look into local public speaking groups such as Toastmasters. I'm vain and I love attention. How I handle boring shit, that's where the neuroses are. Preparation. I know that may sound like a cheap answer, but that's honestly my best hedge against anxiety. Edit. Thanks for them gold and silver coins. I don't remember the people that bombed presentations because those aren't formative memories. No matter how much I bomb this presentation, no one will remember in a month, especially since they are stressed about their own presentation. How you prepare is key. Don't write a word-for-word speech. Develop your presentation in the form of questions that you can answer. That way, when you get off of your plan, or have a question pop up that you didn't explicitly plan for, you're already in the mindset of solving a problem rather than reciting a speech. It allows you to pivot and improvise much more effectively. For something that I haven't seen posted yet. Know what you have to say is important. Tell yourself that you know what you are doing, and that other people need to hear what you have to say. I've attended several research conferences. I notice the boomer-aged presenters just DGAF and read directly from cards without looking up once. If it helps, it doesn't really matter if you are a subject matter expert with several dozen peer-reviewed papers or a student. I think most people get nervous speaking in front of crowds. Just remind yourself that it's okay. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then you should like and subscribe.